In order to start off with this P7, I'm going to discuss few things that there is a board which is called IAASB. There's a board which is called IAASB, which is International Auditing and Assurance Standard Board. So it's actually the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. Now, what exactly is this IAASB, which is the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board? So if I talk about this IAASB, so this IAASB actually has got 4 pronouncements. And what are those 4 pronouncements? Those 4 pronouncements are number 1, ISA. The number 2 is ISAE. Number 3 is ISRE. And number 4 is the ISRS. So we've got 4 pronouncements, which is ISA, ISAE, ISRE, ISRS. Now what exactly are these 4 pronouncements? What's ISA, what's ISAE, what's ISRS? So ISA is the International Standards on Auditing, and this ISAE is the International Standards on Assurance Engagement. And when we talk about this ISRE, so this is International Standards on Review Engagement. And when we talk about this as an International Standards on Assurance and Review Engagement, then you've got International Standards on Related Services. So when we talk about this IAASB, the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board, there are actually 4 pronouncements. And what exactly are those 4 pronouncements? Those 4 pronouncements are, they include this Auditing International Standards on Auditing. They include the International Standards on Assurance Engagement, International Standards on Review Engagement, and the International Standards on Related Services. Now, so I'm actually going to discuss that what is this ISA, what is ISAE, what is ISRE, what is ISRS. We just discussed about the syllabus content of the paper. So when I talked about this other assignments, which is basically a section which would have a 20-25 marks weightage. This other assignments is all made up of these. The other assignments is all made up of this ISAE, ISRE, ISRS. This is what the all other assignments is actually made up of. So this is specific section, other assignments we would cover up from them. Now, I will have a quick discussion that what is the difference between this ISA, ISIE, ISRE, etc. So in order to discuss this, I'm going to say that there are various types of engagements. And when we talk about these various types of engagements, so the engagements could be majorly classified into the assurance engagement and into non-assurance engagement. What is an assurance engagement? What's a non-assurance engagement? So when we talk about the assurance engagement is an engagement where you give an opinion, where you actually express an opinion, where you as an auditor own something. And when we talk about non-assurance engagement, that means no opinion. When we talk about the non-assurance engagement, that actually means that there is no opinion. So when I talk about the engagements are of 2 types. One of them is termed as assurance and the other one of them is termed as non-assurance engagement. The assurance engagements are also of 2 types. And what are those of 2 types? One of them is pertaining to historical financial information. And the other one of them is basically other than historical financial information. One of them is about historical financial information, and the other one of them is other than historical financial information. Now, so when I talk about this historical financial information and other than historical financial information, so let's actually talk about it. When we talk about this historical financial information, so historical financial statements, you have got 2 things. When you talk about the historical financial information, you've got 2 things. Now, what are those 2 things which are there in the historical financial information? So one of them is basically the audit and the other one of them is a review. So when we talk about the historical financial information, one of them is the audit and the other one of them is the review. Anyways, so basically one of them is about historical financial information and the other one of them is about other than historical financial information. So when we talk about historical financial information, you've got an audit and then you've got a review. Now, when we talk about the audit, when we talk about the review, so I said that audit is performed in accordance with ISA. The review is performed in accordance with ISRE. What exactly is the difference between audit and what exactly is the difference between review? So I'm going to have a quick discussion about this audit and review discussion also. Uh, okay. Now, what exactly is this audit and what exactly is a review? So when I talk about the audit and when I talk about the review, so generally what happens is the audit is a statutory requirement. Generally, the audit is a statutory requirement. So when we perform the audit, it's mainly because we are bound by the laws and the regulations. So is review not a statutory requirement? A review can also be a statutory requirement, especially when it comes to the preparation or the review of the interim financial statements in accordance with IS 34. So that is when the review comes in. So, but what exactly is the difference between this audit and the review? So when I talk about the difference between the audit and the review, so generally what happens is the audit is a detailed exercise. Audit is a detailed exercise and the review is basically a summary exercise. Review is a summary exercise. It's not a detailed exercise. It's actually something which is compact, which is reduced scope. It's a lower scope exercise. So that's why what actually happens when it comes to the audit is that we end up giving a reasonable assurance in the audit. And when we talk about the review, so what we do is that we only give a moderate assurance in the review. So when we talk about the audit, we give a reasonable assurance. And when we talk about the review, it actually gives you limited assurance, moderate assurance or a limited assurance. Now, why exactly is a limited assurance here and reasonable assurance here? Because what happens is when we perform the audit, we perform all the audit procedures. When we perform the audit, we perform all the audit procedures. But when we perform a review, all that we do is that we only talk about the inquiry and we talk about the analytical procedure. So when we talk about the review, all that we talk about is the inquiry and analytical procedure. So because the scope, because the work performed under this audit and review is of different nature, that's why in the audit we give a reasonable assurance and in the review we give a limited or the moderate assurance. Now, what exactly do we mean by limited or moderate assurance? So basically what happens is when it comes to the audit, you express your opinion in a positive form. You express your opinion in a positive form. Now, what exactly do you mean by expressing an opinion in a positive form? So expressing an opinion in a positive form actually means you say that financial statements give a true and fair view. But when it comes to the review, we actually give an opinion in the form of in a negative form. Now, what exactly do we mean by this negative form? So when I talk about the negative form actually means that nothing has come to our attention. That causes us to believe that financial statement do not give a true and fair view. When we talk about this review engagement, so the type of opinion that we give in the review is of a negative form. Now, what exactly is the difference between this positive form and what exactly is the difference between this negative form? So now I talk about this negative form. It says that we say nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe that financial statement do not give a true and fair view. But here we say financial statement give a true and fair view. So basically you see the level of authority which we are talking that actually makes the opinion a positive form of opinion or the negative form of opinion. So this is what the major difference is. So what makes this audit and review a different exercise? Audit is a reasonable assurance exercise and review is a limited or a moderate level assurance exercise. Audit actually requires you to perform all the audit procedures, but when it comes to review, you need to perform only the inquiry and the analytical procedure. Audit leads to an entity expressing a positive form of opinion, and the review leads to an entity expressing a negative form of opinion. So when we perform the audit, using either, and when we perform the review, we perform it using the ISRE. When we perform the review, we perform it using ISRE. So basically, the assurance engagement are of two types. One of them is for the historical finance information, and that includes audit and that includes review. The second thing is the other than historical finance information. And when we talk about other than historical finance information, so you need to understand one thing, that what exactly are the other than historical finance information. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Like for example, there is something which is called CSR report. There's something which is termed as CSR report, which is the corporate social responsibility report. Then there is this something which is actually called KPI report, the key performance indicator report. So, and there is something which is called prospective finance information report. I'm going to explain this prospective finance information report. So take an example. At times what happens is you apply to bank for a loan. So when you apply to bank for a loan, you have to submit a forecast to the bank. You have to submit a forecast to the bank. Now when you submit forecast to the bank, so basically what happens is the bank wants that forecast to be authenticated by somebody. So the forecast is not a historical finance, although it's a finance information, but it's not a historical finance information. So therefore, resultingly, what happens is that the people, these banks, they want you to actually get them authenticated. So when you go to an audit firm for authentication, the authentication that the audit firm actually gives you is it's something which is about other than historical finance information, and it falls under ISAE. It falls under ISAE. And lastly, you've got non-assurance engagements. And what exactly do you mean by non-assurance engagement? It means an engagement where you're not expressing an opinion. It means an engagement where you're not expressing an opinion. Now, when I talk about this non-assurance engagement, so I'm going to talk about the non-assurance engagement as the non-assurance engagement actually means there are actually various types of engagement. One of them is a compilation engagement. Now, what exactly is this compilation engagement? So let's have a discussion about this compilation engagement. So the compilation engagement is at times you as an entity may not have appropriately qualified personnel. So at times what happens is you as an entity may not have appropriate personnel who could prepare the financial statement, IFRS compliant financial statement. So what happens is you may engage a firm, and you may require a firm that please prepare IFRS compliant financial statement for us. So the firm would deploy their staff, firm would actually undertake the activity of preparing the financial statement in accordance with IFRS, giving him appropriate disclosures, and etc., etc., etc. So if there is any such engagement, that is termed as non-assurance engagement. And non-assurance engagement falls under ISRS, which is International Standards on Related Services. International Standards on Related Services. Now, so when we talk about this paper P7, so as I mentioned, that paper P7, there is actually various aspects of the syllabus. So the various aspects of the syllabus, as I mentioned, that they include that these are the 5 sections of the syllabus, which includes the regulatory environment, professional ethical consideration, practice management. These 3 areas are mainly code of ethics. There are few of the ISR 200 series, and then this is ISQC. This is what these 3 areas are majorly all about. The area has a weightage of 25%. Then you've got this planning and conducting audit and completion and reporting. So you have a 50-mark portion or 50-mark or even 60-mark portion from this specific area. As I mentioned, that accounting standard knowledge is essential for this paper, because if you don't have accounting standard knowledge, then you would actually suffer. You would have a serious issue. And then I did discuss about this other assignments, that this is what the other assignments area is. So when I'm actually discussing this specific things, so this ISAE, ISRE, ISRS, this is what we are going to discuss in other assignments. This is all that we're going to discuss in other assignments. So this is one of the basic introduction now about what this is all about. Now, how am I actually going to approach the syllabus? So the way of approaching the syllabus is going to be, I shall actually be giving you access to the lectures for the revision of the accounting standards also, because I do realize and I do understand this thing that a lot of you would have forgotten the accounting standards by now. So what I would actually do is that I would give you complete accounting standards revision. Along with that, I'm also going to give you the various accounting auditing procedures that could be applied, keeping in mind the given accounting standards also. So we are actually going to ensure that we cover up all the accounting standards and we have got a complete coverage. So you'll not have to worry about the accounting standards. So anyways, we shall keep it till here, and we shall continue in our next class with the further aspects of the syllabus. So this is what the introductory class was all about.